Hey folks, Jonathan here. I am here to get our truck. I finally finished up the deal on it. Was able to get it, and she's gonna be fun to get out. Got a stump there and a tree here. We can move the pin, that ain't no problem. And a stump, yeah, that stump ain't coming over. So we're gonna have to do a little finagling to get it out, but we are gonna get it out of there. Okay, we was gonna back the bed up and put the bed right here in this hole, and then run a snatch block and drag the front of the truck over. But it looks like Bobby is gonna get his chainsaw and cut a couple trees down, so that'll sure help us out a lot. Bobby's the guy that I'm getting it from, a friend of mine. I was friends with his dad for years before I'd met him, but we'll see if we can get it hooked up here. Okay folks, we have made it back. We've got our 1960 Ford pickup truck that's going to be our rat rod. Give you a little better look at it, a little closer look. We've got some rust here and there. Did check serial numbers. This was actually built in Baltimore, Maryland, and the paint code on this was an S, and I was having trouble finding what the S meant color wise, or color wise as my wife says. Turns out it means special, and that means that this was probably a state road truck or a county truck, or possibly a, let's say, a wildlife fisheries truck. It does have something on it, and it's still there enough that I think we're going to be able to get it cleaned off enough to see what it says. It's some kind of a decal or something, so we'll probably leave that on it. Just clean it off where you can actually see it. This truck has been painted probably 4 times maybe. It looks like it's been white, it's been yellow, it looks like maybe it was primer, and green. So if I was to guess, it was primer and it was yellow originally. Someone repainted it white and then somebody repainted it green. So it's been around. But one of the reasons I want to use this truck, I said in the last video, you know, when I went and looked at this thing, that there was a sort of a story behind it, and there is. When I was 17 years old, I drove a 1955 Ford Fairlane, and that's what I was actually, sort of my high school car, my senior year, and I had traded for it and fixed it up myself and drove it around. Of course, didn't have any exhaust on it. It was loud and 3-speed with a real low gear in the rear end, and so I did a lot of tire spinning and drive shaft slinging and stuff like that. But I had a 351 Windsor in it, and had a 3-speed and changed it out to a 4-speed. But anyway, that's not the point I'm getting to. But I actually was needing a windshield one time, and I drove out to an old fella's house, and to me he was old at the time, and I would guess he was probably in his 60s, and it's not old no more, but I mean it used to be old. But got out there, and I don't know if somebody had told me or I just happened to find this place, but he had a 55 Ford and with a good windshield, and I was able to get the windshield from him. But the best part of the whole deal is I become good friends with him, and he was one of the fellows that everybody said, well, he won't sell anything, you can't deal with him, anything like that. But he was the type of person that, you know, you was friends with him before you was ever a, you know, someone that could buy from him. And you know, I bought the windshield, of course, but I was you know, always interested in other stuff and messing around. And he had a lot of cars, and a lot of old cars. And about, well, just before our last rat rod build, his name was Armour Maine, and Armour used to come over all the time and, you know, mess around. And he was building an engine and going to build this truck with the other 2 parts trucks. And it's a 292, and I don't know how far along he actually got on the engine, but I do know I have still got his bell housing in there. He had some cracks on it I was welding up for him. But become real good friends with him, and really nice guy. He would have been here for the rat rod build, just passed away. But this is the reason that I wanted this truck. And Armour, you know, had a lot of parts, a lot of old stuff, sort of a hoarder. And you know, this truck is one that he drove. He was retired Air Force. He actually drove this and drove it to Fort Bragg and back. And then after he drove it, one of his sons worked at the Cadillac dealership, and he drove it to the Cadillac dealership, and that was Bobby. And he's the friend where I picked it up from. And had another son, Patrick, that drove it after that, and I believe he actually drove it in high school. So this was, you know, sort of a family deal to them. And I had to deal really through Bobby, but I mean, you know, with 3 family members, because, you know, to be able to get it, but which was no problem, don't get me wrong. But we finally got everything straightened out. We wasn't sure whose name the title was in, because it, you know, all the different family members. So I actually had a friend that checked the VIN number and was able to figure out which one it was, and, you know, got the okay to meet with them and do an MBR4, which is a lost title form, and to be able to get this into my name, so that way come rat rod time we can give it away. And I really think once we get to sanding and playing with that body some, this thing will probably look pretty good. And you know, as a rat rod anyway. And our plans are still to put the Perkins in. I went ahead and put it on blocks so we could check it out good. And you know, I need to get a lot of measurements. You know, these Perkins engines are really tall. I want to make sure we're going to have, you know, good clearance in here. One of the reasons I wanted to use this is a straight axle. There's no cross member. You know, so I think we can work with it. We may have a little room to be able to raise the engine up some. Hoping not have to cut into the floorboard, but we're going to do what we need to do to, you know, to make this build happen. Basically, we're going to change most of the running gear out, but again, we're going to do it all in one day. This truck will not be touched until that day. You know, I did set it on blocks so I could get the measurements and make sure that everything's going to clear fine and stuff. and because, you know, a lot of planning to be able to finish it one day. Interior, we're not going to do anything to. We're not even going to clean it out. I mean, that'll all be done the day of the build. And you know, I think we've got a little bit of rust. Someone has, well, it looks like it glued linoleum down in there. That's pretty neat. But we've got a little bit of places there that, you know, we may do something with. We'll get some seats lined up for it, or a seat, or whatever we can find. I think we got a rat's nest here. But like I said, we'll save all that for the day of the build. You know, the whole point is to be able to do it in one day, and you know, we're going to prep parts for this. We're not going to prep the truck. It'll be just like you see it here, and hopefully I don't see any issues, you know, major issues or anything like that. We'll get a door handle lined up and off the other truck. We'll actually pick it up and get it here. I mean, it has rust issues, but you know, that's why we're building it as a rat rod. It's not a show truck. Get some wheels and tires lined up for it. Another reason I wanted to get it up, we had some steering issues there, and I see why now. Drag link's bent really bad, so we'll have to do something about that. This has got an old 3-speed in it, and it's stuck in gear. You know, old column shift. I can't even get the shifter to move. And looking at the drive shaft and the length of the tail shaft on this thing, it's going to be a smart idea for me to line up a 2-piece drive shaft and be ready with a cross member. Because if we use a short transmission, I don't want no 8-foot drive shaft in it. So that'll all, you know, be ready and come in time. But we should be able to do it in one day. I don't think there's going to be an issue, you know, as long as we get everything lined up, all the parts and stuff. And we may have an extra window for it too, so we might, you know, I don't mind the bubbling so much as the actual cracks, but you know, that looks like the only one that's cracked. That one's bubbled. Back glass is good, got a little white around it. Windshield's actually really good. I don't even see much white around it at all. It's a Fumico window, so it's not an aftermarket replacement. So I think she's going to work good though.